went forth and they started to build. The Bible literally declares that each of the head priests and all of the fellow priests went together and they started and went to the work first. How many understand and realize when you start to do a good work, it's infectious. It goes on and moves to other men. When you start to take up your responsibility, you start to see it's something different. Other men will come around and say, if he can do it, I can do it. If he can be faithful, I can be faithful. If he can trust after the Lord, I can trust after the Lord. How do we see men model what they see other men do? Men model what they see other men do. Here it is, Nehemiah in this moment goes to work. Yes, they have a threat against them. Yes, they have issues, but the Bible literally declares that they worked with one hand and held a weapon in the other. They worked with one hand and they held a weapon with the other. Here it is, men. Don't think that just because you're doing the will and purpose of God, it's going to be easy. Don't think that just because you're doing the will and purpose of God that everybody is going to be for you. Many times, those times, many people are most against you when you do the will and purpose of God. And here it is, Nehemiah said, we've got to do a good work. And when you start to do a good work, you see that those who are against you start to pop out of nowhere. That moves me on to my next point. Here it is, Nehemiah also overcame opposition. He overcame opposition. Here it is, as soon as they started to build the wall, as soon as they started to go to work, as soon as they started to put their business together, started to do what God had called them to do. Here it is, folks who want to come and tear down their vision. The Bible declares in the 2nd chapter of Nehemiah, the 19th verse, it says, but then Sanballat and Hiram, Teshub, the Amorite, the local officials in Geshem, the Arab, heard about this. They mocked and ridiculed. And they said, what are you doing? And they said, aren't you rebelling against the king? Or later on in that passage in chapter 4, it literally says Sanballat and those heard that they were building the wall, they ridiculed the Jews in the presence of the associates in the army of Samaria. They said, what are these feeble Jews doing? They are restoring their wall. Will they offer sacrifice? Will they finish in the day? Can they bring back stones into their life? And they looked forth and they said, look at this building. It's not that strong. Even little foxes climbing on it will break down the walls. Let me let you understand something, men. Whenever you decide in your heart, when we talked about yesterday, to convert your mindset, right, to connect, right, and to be a conqueror, whenever you start to follow after the will and purpose of God, you're going to have adversaries who come against you with several different things. They'll come against you with distraction, with delay, and with discouragement.
Yes.
And they'll try to tear you down from what God has positioned you to do. How do they do it? They look at you and say, who does he think he is? I know him back when, come on, let's be honest. You have to run into those folks and say, you're a Christian now? I remember you back when. I remember what you used to do. Don't you remember this? And they try to pull you into it. And then they look at what you're doing and say, that's not going to work. Why are you wasting your time with that? You're going to fail. That's going to make any sense. I've seen that before. I've heard that before. I've heard so-and-so try to do that and they failed on their face. They wanted to go to 2 services and they didn't go forth and do it. They wanted to build a ministry and it never worked. They wanted to go forth and build a new building and it never worked. All these other influences and understandings. But you understand and realize, beloved, when opposition comes against you, it's an understanding and opportunity to realize God is with you and God is for you. Here it is. Nehemiah against Sanballat and Tobiah. Here it is, these individuals, Sanballat and Geshem and all these individuals, they were of high position. They had political power. They had might. They ridiculed, and not only did they ridicule, but folks will ridicule and then they'll plot against you. The Bible literally declares that they plotted together to fight against Jerusalem and to stir up trouble. You've got to be careful inviting folks who do not share your vision to get in close relationship with you. Why? Because first they'll start to mock you. Then they'll try to plot against you to devise a plan to make you fall. Why? Because some people are so weak that the only way they can feel affirmed is seeing someone else fail. Why? Because they know that they can't get to that next level. God is leading and guiding them. And as a result, they say, if I can't get there, no one else can get there. And as a result, jealousy rises up. And they can do everything in their power to try to pull you back down. Come on, come on, come on. I know it's not in your churches, but let me just talk about my church just for a little while. As soon as somebody decides, you know what, I'm going to get my life right before the Lord, I'm going to start going to Bible study. Who do you think you are going to Bible study? You think God can use you? As soon as you start to sign up and sing on the choir praise team, they come against you and say, oh, you think you can think, I know about your life in the past. I know what you've been through. And they try to tear others down. Why? Because they're sitting back in their seats doing nothing. And they want everyone to sit in mediocrity with them instead of realizing I can't stay back, beloved, but there's greatness on the inside of me. Others might have failed, but they don't know the God that I serve, and they don't know the word God has deposited inside of me. They might not have done, I don't know what happened in their circumstance, in their situation, but I know what God spoke to me. And if God has spoken a word unto you, it shall come to pass. Hallelujah. Here it is. They plotted and ridiculed. But as they plotted and ridiculed, what did Nehemiah do? Nehemiah prayed and prepared. While they were plotting and ridiculing, here it is, Nehemiah prayed and prepared. He realized in the midst of the situation that he had to go before the most high and holy God and declare before God, God, I need your help. And that's the characteristic of a kingdom man. When you know that you're up against opposition, don't try to put it on your shoulders, brother. I know many times we like to say, I got this, I can handle this. Now you got to go to your knees and say, God, I need thee. Every hour I need thee. Pass thee not, O gentle Savior. Hear my humble cry. Is there any brother in the building on tonight who can say, I need the Lord? I'm facing something on this week. I've got some issues right now. I need the Lord. You've got to pray, and you've got to prepare to understand and realize God will be with you. Beloved, we've been in this, I came into my congregation several years ago, and God has blessed us with a beautiful new building, a wonderful facility. Looks good on the outside, right? And many times people can look on the outside and be jealous of what you got, but they don't know what's taking place on the inside. And the truth of the matter, we have a beautiful multi-million-dollar facility. Looks wonderful on the outside, but if the former administration and the former individuals didn't do what they needed to do, and as a result, we do not have a certificate of occupancy. And so we've been working all this time, beautiful building, wonderful seats, everything looks nice and plush, every wonderful sound system, everything looks wonderful and nice, but yet we don't have a certificate of occupancy. And so we've been battling. It seems as though as the church grows even greater and greater, the opposition to receiving the certificate of occupancy grows greater and greater. Now understand to realize they come up with this and they come up with that, and sometimes, let me be honest, can I be authentic as a pastor on tonight? I get discouraged because I'm saying, God, all this money we're spending on this and all the money we're spending on, we need to be going so much great ministry. I'm just getting so frustrated. I'm getting so angry. But God said, I called you there to build a work. He said, you build the people and I'll build my church. And I'm here to let somebody know, just from a personal experience and understanding and realization, it doesn't matter what type of opposition you may be against. Go to your knees once again and cry out to the Lord and say, God, I need you. Is there any man who won't be ashamed to say, I need the Lord on tonight? If nobody else needs him, this pastor needs the Lord tonight. Here it is. The Bible declares that God spoke forth. It spoke to Nehemiah and said, don't be afraid of them. It said, remember the Lord who is great and awesome. God literally declared to Nehemiah that he will frustrate them in the midst of their working against him. And so Nehemiah prayed and posted a guard. Here it is, get that, prayed and posted a guard. Here it is, he prayed, but he also prepared for what was before him. Man, you have to be prepared, and regardless of whatever it is, yes, you stay prayed up, but it also means that you stay prepared up as well. Whatever the enemy might be trying to do against you, make sure you got a guard. Is there any guards in the house of the Lord on tonight? To say, I don't mind guarding my household. I don't mind guarding my church. I don't mind standing as a guard in my community. I'd rather be a gatekeeper. Come on, somebody, in the house of... Here it is. You don't be afraid. You got to remember what the Lord has done. And remember that God specializes in frustrating your enemies. You don't have to get so concerned about it. You prepare what you're supposed to prepare, and then let God fight the battle. I know it sounds like a cliche. I know it sounds like something we just say